Historic socio-economic factors have conditioned Nigerians to welcome policies with skepticism and cynicism. Many bemoan their lack of access to the benefits of sectoral and nationwide reforms, while others insist they do not feel the impact of these reforms. What will make the National Industrial Policy NIP 2025 to 2035 any difference?
The RWG is also going to be one of the focus areas for the implementation, because beyond the policy, there's also the need to implement it. I mean, a policy is as good as what you do with it, no matter how excellent it is. And because, our country is not lacking, is not short in terms of policies. The policies are everywhere. What we are lacking is in terms of what we do after those policies are out. And therefore, the RWG becomes our own platform, our engine room to make sure that the circumstances and the situation with the Nigerian industrial policy is not the same with other previous policies and all of that.
It is not just about producing policy papers. It's about getting institutions to work together, deliver results, and take responsibility for outcomes that actually support MSME growth, skills development, and industrial expansion.
It's long overdue. So absolute kudos to the Honorable Minister for delivering it, especially within a short time of his assumption of office.
This policy, industrial policy, is going to be the industrial policy for Nigerians, not industrial policy for governments. Industrial policy for Nigeria, for the stakeholder, for the industrialists, for the investors. So Nigerians should be expecting the implementation of this policy first of all, because the policy is implementable. When you look at everything we have there, is implementable because it's put together by those people who are operators.
This policy marks a significant turning point for Nigeria's economic future because it situates quality, innovation, and value addition at the center of national development. What I find especially compelling in this policy is a clear emphasis on standards as enabler of industrial growth.
And it provides a unified blueprint that aligns the entire productive sector around competitiveness, innovation, and sustainability. Starting from the Industrial Revolution Work Group and what I thought about it and how I set it up almost on day one, in itself, that to give an insight into the kind of leadership I've tried to provide this 1 year plus, in terms of my relationship with the agencies. Each of these agencies has a clear mandate, and I think that working together, collectively, because it is the result and the outcomes of these subsets that in itself is going to contribute to that system-wide and ecosystem-wide, progress that the sector yearns for. So I find out that there's a lot of activity, by the agencies, and I've been called upon, at different times, to play a role. I've been called upon at different times, to have a responsibility, for example, that moves, each of the mandates of these agencies. NADDC, for example, beyond, a lot of the innovations that leadership has actually, been been behind. We at the moment, we have a Japanese-based, industrialist that is very interested and key in coming to come and establish, an integrated, EV, manufacturing factory, back in Nigeria, and we're working together in terms of the MOUs, in terms of when it can come and all of that.
Okay, so it has also strengthened collaboration amongst agencies. And supported the Bank of Industry's mandate, like I always say, is one of our biggest champions. And is also really championing reforms across the sector and helping to boost confidence.
By definition, the Nigeria Sugar Master Plan is in a sense a detailed subset of the industrial policy, in the sense that, it shares a lot of course, it also shares a lot of features. So for example, around like the incentives for serious players, in terms of things like skills development, which we, in our own case, for example, are driving through the Nigeria Sugar Institute, which is going to be producing, quality scale. So it's kind of, if you think about it, the NSMP is a granular rendition of the industrial policy of the country in general. So it does share a lot of commonalities by definition.
Just a few days ago, I went to Lafiaji, sugar company that is owned by Bois, because for all this while we've had different meetings and all of that over the failure of the government, backward integration program and what can happen. The Nigerian Sugar Development Master Plan is on the second phase after the first phase of 10 years, but the results to show are just dismal. So I've submitted strategies for, how to get this achieved to Mr. President, and I'm already running in terms of some of those strategies by visiting the various sugar, farms and factories and all of that. And I did one of such visitations a few days ago in Committee of National Sugar Development Council. So this is the kind of relationship that continues to exist.
The Honorable Minister has been very deliberate about coordination and alignment. One clear example is his strong support for national platforms like the National Industrial Manpower Summit. Through NIMS and similar fora, he has helped bring together policymakers, regulators, employers, and training institutions to have one coordinated conversation about manpower development. This has been critical in moving us towards a unified national response, where training priorities are driven more by industrial needs and curriculum reform are increasingly employers-led rather than fragmented across different institutions.
I was part of the World Entrepreneurship Conference or Congress that took place in Indianapolis, with the SMIDAN and all of that, bringing together into one, umbrella, various entrepreneurs and all of this. So I think that, some months back, there was working with the office of this, SSA to the president on industrial training and manpower development. There was a national, industrial manpower summit that took place and all of that. So there's a lot of collaboration, going on, between my office and the agencies that are oversight. We've gotten different applications for setting up of economic zones and things like that. So these have continued to proceed, and I think that the work relationship and the work achievement can only continue to improve and to get better, because everybody is responsible. At the moment, the ITF, is currently doing things across the country under its super program. The need, for example, to retool, our workforce to make them industrially competitive, and all of that. So as we push for industrial growth and development, there is also the attendant challenge of getting the right workforce that can fit in. And we're working together with all of these agencies to try to see how all of this can be achieved and can be accomplished.
You see, the super program started in 2024 first quarter. And right now, we are at the examination stage. Successful artisans, successful candidates from the international certification will now be put through entrepreneurship program. Super is a presidential initiative brought to ITF, and we will never disappoint Nigeria. We will never disappoint our president.
The Honorable Minister, Senator John Owen Eno, has brought clarity and momentum to Nigeria's industrial agenda. His leadership produced the National Industrial Policy, which was recently approved by the Federal Executive Council.
The Honorable Minister of State for Industry exercises direct supervisory oversight over the Bank of Industry (BOI), Industrial Training Fund (ITF), Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria (SMEDAN), National Automotive Design and Development Council (NADDC), National Sugar Development Council (NSDC), Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission (FCCPC). He also exercises shared ministerial responsibility with full authority on industry-related matters over Standards Organization of Nigeria (SON), Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority (OGFZA), and Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority (NEPZA). Each of them will be expected to play a key role in the implementation of the National Industrial Policy. When a country primarily consumes what it makes, its economy is strengthened, jobs are created, and an immense sense of national pride is instilled in the populace. Nigeria is home to some thriving factories, whether it's Innocent in Nnewi, or the sugar factory in Niger State, or even the Dangote refinery in Lagos State. Unfortunately, in the same vein, there are also many factories that have become moribund for different reasons. Senator John Owan Eno identified the importance of both thriving and moribund factories. He visited them and offered gratitude and support for the former and hope of revival for the latter.
The Nigerian First policy, which by the way is an element in the Nigerian industrial policy as one of the strategies and all of that announced by the president. By the time that the Nigerian First policy, begins to work, the effect begins to be felt. By the time, for example, that Nigerians now depend more, looking inwards and not outwards and all of that. I mean, I've had cause to visit factories and industries, and I've come face to face with goods that are produced in country and cannot be bought because people are not buying them. By the time this becomes reversed, I think that it will become more obvious and easy to be able to measure, how this Nigerian industrial policy is able to impact and how competitive we are, for example. Nigeria is a signatory to the AFCFTA. Being a signatory is not just for us to become a market. It's for us to become a production hub. By the time we take advantage of the fine points of this policy and they truly become a hub in industrially and productively, I think that a lot of the things that have been lingering and have been so long in happening would then begin to happen, would then begin to show. We'll be able to proceed. By the time, for example, that the country's scarce foreign reserves are not being depleted on a daily basis because we're not productive enough, that the effect of that is going to be instant in terms of the lives of the average Nigerians. By the time, for example, that our MSMEs, right, that are the most productive aspects of, Nigeria's, economic ecosystem, by the time they are truly functional driven by the fact that they are all tied up to various industrial clusters and they are encouraged to scale up. I mean, all of this will become, a bit more noticeable, in terms of the lives, of Nigerians, the appreciation of Nigerians themselves.
Without production, there's nothing that we can do as a country. So we have to start producing, at least producing what we consume. I mean, it's heartbreaking to see industries that were once, at the center of business activities in those places now virtually empty, zero, with nothing in there, no production, nothing. Even the machineries are gone. The ones that are still standing are out of date because we are in 2025 now. Some of those machineries were installed there in the 70s. So, I mean, it's heartbreaking, heart-aching to see the things we saw in Kaduna and Lagos. And that's not all. The minister has been to many other places with a view to seeing for himself firsthand what the reality is and what needs to be done.
Nigerians have often expressed their reservations about the Nigeria First policy. They have insinuated that the government must take the lead before the citizens follow. Senator John Owan Eno has not only heeded the call, but he has also supported Smedon's push for this reorientation.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been very, very adamant on the Nigerian First policy. And, everywhere we go as Smedon, we have also constituted a mandate to support the Nigerian First policy, something called Grow Nigeria, because we are the backbone for the Nigeria First. And Grow is GROW. G stands for guidance, R stands for resources, O stands for opportunity, and W stands for work for support. In terms of guidance, we're helping our small businesses all the guidance that they need to navigate bottlenecks, everything that they need to start and scale. Small business owner comes to us today, we can register with them with Smedon and almost immediately point them to register with CAC by formalizing them. If they need investment, we point them to NIPC. If they need to export, we can help them get export license from NIPC. Because all of this is like a one-stop shop under our guidance program. In terms of resources, we are big on financial and non-financial resources. I say to small business owners that if Smeda cannot help you, I don't think that there's anybody else that can give you any kind of help, because that's what we're set out to do. In terms of opportunities, we let them see the opportunities. Nigeria is 250 million. Africa is 1.4 billion. We have ascended to the AfCFTA agreement, and now we can actually even start to trade among African countries.
He's someone, when I've been in meetings with him, he's one of those people who likes to listen, to hear. He doesn't come in with a certain, an opinion whereby he expresses it and everybody, and I've seen people who lead that way. They have a fixed idea of what they want. They come in and they say, oh, this is what we should do. And what then happens is puts pressure on everybody else to align, right? He comes in, is often the last to make a contribution. He will listen to the room. He will ask very pointed questions to get a sense of where you're coming from. It's almost like I'm trying to be persuaded and I'm open to the best ideas. And even in coming up with Industrial Revolution Plan, he went through a rigorous, meticulous process to come in setting up that plan. And it wasn't like, oh, I think at IRWG is the best platform to do this. Go get it done. No.
The biggest impact he has had on Smedan are three. One is on financing. Senator John Awan is a big advocate for financing for small businesses at single digits. And so he's been one of the biggest supporters of Smedan to unlocking single digits. Senator John Awan, has at many times gone to see the central bank governor, has gone to see the vice president on how we can unlock single-digit interest loans for small business owners. Senator John Onwan is the first person who has said that the 50,000 naira grants that were given to small business owners has become too small because of the current reality in the country, and he wants us to increase it to at least 100,000 naira so that that can actually help our small business owners. Secondly, is on identity. Senator John Onwan is one of the people who, on resumption of Smedan, wanted to see the database. Where is the data of our small business owners? If he calls me today, the first thing he asks, how we did on the data, because that's his focus. So one is identity, two is data, and three is capacity development.
One thing I'm particularly proud of and I really like about the minister is his hands-on approach. And he's really solutions-driven. He's been instrumental in creating an environment where industries can really innovate, they can grow and scale in a sustainable manner.
The Honorable Minister has provided a lot of support to us. Particularly, I want to highlight in terms of, generally he will tell you, how can I help you? How can I support you? It is your show, but how can I help you? And whatever you say, I need help here, he will do that. In particular, one of the key challenges we have is how to accelerate the backward integration program. He has played a key role in terms of mobilizing the operators to ensure that they do what they need to do to be able to drive the acceleration of the backward integration program, which is key to the attainment of the Sugar Master Plan. So that has been absolutely valuable.
Honorable Minister John has played a very key and vital role to ensure that Nigerian industries have a clear roadmap so that the industries will develop, create jobs, and support the overall national growth.
What we have seen, particularly with the coming in of a distinguished Senator John Eno, is the fact that you have someone who has dedicated himself to engaging deeply with the players in the sector. So what we have seen since his coming is the fact that we always have access to the Honorable Minister. We have inclusive engagement. such that we co-created most of the measures that he has introduced since he emerged as minister.
I would say the Honorable Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Onwa-Eno, has been an invaluable partner in advancing SON's mandates and also in strengthening the industrialization agenda of the federal government. And I think his leadership has provided a clear policy direction and also has enhanced coordination within the ministry by ensuring that regulatory agencies such as SON operates with greater focus and synergy.
One of the best things that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done to the industry or to the rail sector is appointment of Senator John Ewan, because it is as if the distinguished senator or minister was actually prepared for the task, so to speak. The first time we were to meet was when he became the minister. He displayed his administrative capability. So what he did first was to look at who are the stakeholders that really needs to work with. He consulted the organized private sector, which a man called the meeting. So he had a one-on-one meeting with the stakeholders, which actually are working within his province. This is well applauded rather than meeting an individual who might have different perspective to problem, but this is a common group problem. So the appointment was very apt.
The appointment of distinguished Senator John Onwa-Eno as the Honorable Minister of State of Industry affirms popular sentiments about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has a knack for appointing the right man for the right job. In just over a year, Senator John Onwa-Eno has reignited the industrial sector. He has made industrialists believers, and he has set Nigeria on the path of an industrial revolution.
I'd like to be acknowledged as that individual that sat on this seat and that replicated, whatever has made me Senator talk and do in crossover politics. As that minister who was not just, interested or satisfied with talking, with committees, with policies, but who was more concerned with the outcome of his effort, the outcome of his work, who was more concerned with results, with delivering results. As that minister who played a role, who produced a Nigerian industrial policy and led in its implementation. To the extent, for example, that Nigeria's future industrial growth and development, is going to be seen as taking a route from that policy and from that implementation. As that minister who didn't shy away from the problem identified, but as that minister that confronted the problem head on, because every day he appreciated what good role industry would achieve for country and for its people.